So now we come to the next intangible asset in this course, which is a humble yet profound testament. And by testament, I mean your life story, the story of your life. Now, the idea here is to understand how humbling your life story is. Your life, I hate to break it to you, is not so special. It's not so outrageously profound or sacred in any sort of way. You are just a regular old Joe, a regular peasant, the common folk. And yet, recognizing your life story, you find that there is something truly profound. And it is humbling to realize what you are. And this intangible asset really is what we're getting at. It's really the idea of what your life is. And another way of looking at it is it's your connection to yourself. It's your connection to your life. Now, we are going to talk about connecting to yourself later on when we get to self-awareness, but at least that's something we can introduce here. Now, to sort of expand on this idea of a humble yet profound life, or a humble yet profound testament, it sort of goes like this. If we say, "Who are you? Tell me about yourself. Tell me your life story," then you'll sort of sit down and you say, "Well, I'm a regular old Joe. I was born in this place. This is my name. And I've worked here. I've worked there. I've been part of this education institute. I had my education here, there. I had this sort of family. I did these sorts of things." And on the surface of it, it's just regular old life, right? It's just a normal life. But what you'll find is that as you continue to tell the story, what happens is it gets deeper. It goes into the hardships. It goes into the things you've overcome, the difficulties that you've overcome. It goes into the glory, the beautiful things that you've found, your relationships, your experiences. And really, it is my firm belief that anyone's life, as told as a story, turns into something truly remarkably beautiful and profound. You can tell anyone's story and you will find that they have had a life, right? It's impossible. It's impossible not to have a life. It's funny that we have this saying, "get a life." It's often used to mean that you're a bit of a loser and you don't really have hobbies and you don't really have a taste of the spice of life. You know, go out and do something of yourself. Make something of yourself. Get a life. Well, here, with an understanding of this intangible asset, you realize that you have a life. It's impossible not to have a life. It's impossible to be alive as a human being and to not, at least eventually, encounter a vast range of experiences, feelings, thoughts, emotions, sensations, situations, relationships. Human beings are vastly complicated and intricate and interesting and profoundly varied and unique and full of so much flavor and so much sparkling consciousness, we could say. And I have to get a little bit poetic to sort of illustrate the point, right? And even the most regular Joe, the ABC peasant, if you listen to their story long enough, then you'll find that there's something truly profound about their life story. You will come to appreciate their life, and if not, to come to love them. right? That's really what a heartfelt story sharing is. And it is so rare, of course, that we have this, right? This scenario of me sitting down and listening to your life story, it's a rare occurrence. It's something that doesn't really come about in general conversation. And in a sense, that is what happens when you visit the older generations and you sit down and you don't really know what to talk about. You've got nothing in common and they're going a little bit deaf, so they don't really hear you and they don't really understand you. So they just end up doing all the talking. And if you just sit and listen, they'll tell you that your life story. I mean, naturally people say things about the events in their life. Oh, I had this occurrence or this happening, and people say this happened, and there's a varying degree of the feeling behind it, right? That really does come down to the connection that they have with themselves. Now, there's another side to this, which is what is it that happens if you actually do have a life? And the funny example that comes to mind for me is from guests on the Sam Harris podcast. And really, any high-level intellectual podcast sort of has this type of guest with it, right? There are many podcasts in our age that are like this, but I've listened to the Sam Harris podcast a lot, and I'm a big fan of it, of course, and you've probably heard of it. But you'll notice that every guest he has on sort of goes like this. My next guest has written 12 New York Times bestsellers, and they have 3 PhDs, and they've been an editor for the New York Times and the London Times, and they've held professorships at Harvard, Berkeley, and Yale. And also they had a startup company which has recently surpassed donating $100 million to charity. Right now, I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea, right? It's like the initial resume impression is like, whoa, it's like this hugely profound thing. Your introduction is just like, whoa, so big life, so profound testament. And here, with this understanding of this intangible asset, we know how to go deeper beyond that. It is not that you have a life or you don't. It is that you have a connection to yourself. In fact, this profound life, this real life of these huge qualifications and achievements, can even get in the way of knowing how to connect with yourself. Now, of course, there's a full spectrum there. There are people who have amazing lives who feel amazing about it, right? And you would expect that. You would expect someone who's had all the academic accolades that they could have ever dreamed of to wake up every day and think, wow, what a life I have. Wow, this is amazing. Wow, I've done it again. Wow, another day in the miracle of me. Another day in this life that I enjoy so much. And of course, you do encounter people. You don't have to go far. I've known people personally who have all of the accolades and think nothing of it. It means nothing to them. In fact, they can regret the time that they spent working on certain things. Even having it as an achievement of being paid a high salary, getting rewards, getting on all the talk shows, being recognized by the common public, being recognized by academia. And of course, the academia side of it is just one sort of narrow view of it, right? There are people who go out and do extraordinary things with their life which are quite quirky. Right? It might be that you're a mountaineer, or you're a rock climber, and you think, wow, that's really weird, right? That's really out there. But you do have to find, well, what is the quality of their life that's within them? What is it that their testament has as a bearing on who they are and how they feel about themselves? And is it humbling? Do they walk around with pride? Do they exert what they've done with their life as a kind of assumption of respect? Or are they humble? And really, staying humble is an important thing to remember. It's one of the ways into this intangible asset. It's half of this intangible asset. Staying humble and yet understanding that there's something truly profound about what you are. And discovering that, going into that and realizing, well, what exactly is it? Is really the whole thing of your interior process. And of course, this doesn't negate and neglect this thing of, I'm actually not happy with what I've done with my life. Like that occurrence within you is still something to contend with. A humble yet profound testament is actually not a self-acceptance. Self-acceptance does not mean a resignation to life. It doesn't mean giving up. Because remaining humble occurs for people who have actually achieved extraordinary things and really do, in a very tangible sense, deserve the rewards that they've got. The rewards, the awards, the respect, the cultural respect. Right? There is something in an awards ceremony. And really, an awards ceremony should be a humbling experience, in a sense. A profoundly humbling experience. So this thing of what your life is and how you feel towards it is really a matter of subjectivity. And by turning your attention directly towards that, it changes your quality of your connection to yourself, to the things that you've done, and also how you want to be in the future. It's something that turns you into an evolving conscious being. Now, we will talk more again about connecting with yourself in some later talks, but at least that's enough for now. That's a humble yet profound testament, which is your life story. And you can practice it. You can go into this simply by telling your life story, starting out simple and really self-reflecting, right? This naturally occurs if you sit down and you think about yourself, like, what is my life? What have I done with my life? This naturally happens. This process happens. You just need to give it time to run its course for it to become profound and simple. It simplifies itself. It might become more complicated before it becomes simple, right? Like so many things, it's a process. But at least now you understand it. At least now that's a start. So when you're ready, we can continue on in the course.